Welcome back to MPB's boot camp for the math portion of the ACT. I am Ms. Killen here to make sure that you get the best possible score that you can for the math portion. So we are on lesson 18, so let's go ahead and dive into it. Now, another strategy that we are learning is the strategic way to guess. Sometimes you don't know how to back solve it. You don't know how to pick numbers for it. You definitely have not learned the traditional math. So sometimes the best possible way is do logical guessing, and that's okay. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Now, I've gotten a lot of feedback about using this strategic guessing. So I've written a couple of ideas down about this strategic guessing. So here we go. There will be items on the test that you cannot get an answer for. You just can't. You've not even learned the math or several factors. So sometimes you have to use strategy in guessing. Sometimes there will be an answer that there's no way, form, or fashion can be the possible answer. It's either way too high or too low or something. And then there's one that has nothing to do with the math. We're looking for degrees and you've got $14.27, so to speak. So you're going to have to guess between maybe a couple, three answers. So this is where we get into the more effective way of guessing and how we use our time so we can yield some more of those good raw points to help with that score. All right, so let's look. When you guess, when you use the strategic guessing, you have to consider some things. Eliminate the impossible solutions that we've talked about. We've already seen graphs of functions that fail with vertical line tests, or how you have to have negatives, but then you had to have absolute value, and we've seen all those possible things. So you've got to eliminate the impossible solutions. Okay, also use your eyeballs. Actual figures on the ACT is not drawn to scale. It is not drawn to scale. So if they're saying that this light pole is the same size as this person, no, I have never met Paul Bunyan before in my life. So there's no possible way. Use the common sense that you got and your eyeballs, because figures are not drawn to scale on the ACT, because those books or those computers would have to be huge. So you've got to remember that. So when you look at these, you have to know that this segment may be longer than it is in real life. And this segment may look different, but they're telling you that their measurements are the same. You always go with the numbers. Always, always, always go with the numbers, not what they look like. All right? So then you want to eliminate the oddball. Okay, answers that look different from all of the other ones, like we talked about when we're talking about inches, when they give us 1 in centimeters, or we're talking about degrees in Fahrenheit and they give us a Celsius. Okay, those are the odd man out. So those are not going to be the answers. So you always want to make sure that you're looking for those. Sometimes you can guess an answer and then use the back solving, or maybe guess an answer and then try some traditional math that you can remember. So get a guess and then go and use that guess in maybe another technique or another method. So that's okay if you do that. Always trying to get the best possible answer, using your time effectively, that is our goal. So let's look at some items that we can use that strategic guessing. And I've also written down on the slide how we're using that strategic guessing. So here we go. Which of the following number line graphs show the solution set for the inequality? So the absolute value is less than -1. Absolute value is less than -1. Let's think about that for a minute. What do you think? Can an absolute value be less than -1? I don't know. So let's look. So this item shows how eliminating the impossible can work. The left side of the inequality is absolute value, so the left side of the inequality is always positive or 0. Therefore, the question is asking you to give an answer that's not positive or 0, but it has to be smaller than -1. This can never, ever happen. Never. So right here, when it says that my answers have to be between 4 and 7, there's no way that X could do that, because then it's not going to be less than -1. There's no way that my X's can be less than 4, because even in the negatives, because when I get that absolute value, it's always going to be positive. So if I look down here where it says an empty set, that means there's no answer possible. That can only be, that's the only one that I can guess because I know that absolute value is always a 0 or always a positive number. So that's how I can use that guessing to get my answer. All right, so let's look at this. The number of A is located at negative 2.5 on the number line, and we see this. Which of the following number lines show the location of A squared? Which one is it? Now, let's see. I'm going to guess that when I square a number, I get 4. So when I square this number, negative and negative is positive. 2 times 2 is 4. So I'm guessing that it's still got to be 4, even though I'm taking that negative 2.5. So negative times negative is positive. So I'm going to guess, and let's see. So here I have a negative, here I have a negative, here I have a positive, and here I have a positive. So I only use the negative 2. So I'm guessing that A and B can't be my answer. So let me do a little bit more. What if I got my calculator and I said that negative 2.5 squared gives me negative 2.25. Well, I just said that a negative is positive. Do you remember when I told you to make sure that you use those parentheses correctly? That's what I'm talking about. So in my calculator, I want to put parentheses negative 2.5 close parentheses squared. This is another indication how we say we have to use those parentheses in our calculator correctly. That was a strategic lesson on calculator skills. So I'm going to put parentheses negative 2.5 squared, and I get now a positive 6.25. So when I guessed that the first 2 could not be the answer, that was correct. So now I know that my only possible answer is D. So we've got to remember some things we've learned, and then take those things that we've learned and use that to help guess what our possible answer could be. Good job, guys. So let's look. Now, we have in Cherokee County, the fine for speeding is $17 for each mile per hour the driver is traveling on a posted speed limit. In Cherokee County, Kirk was fined $221 for speeding on the road with a posted speed limit of 30 miles per hour. What is the speed in miles per hour that he was going? All right, well, let's see. Okay, so this question is telling me that he couldn't go over 30, that for each, and we know that word means multiply, for each mile per hour is $17. All right, so how is that going to work? So if I take this and divide it by that, let's see if that'll work. I'm just guessing here. So if I have $221 and I divide it by 17, I get 13. So I was doing 13 miles an hour over the speed limit. So I see it 13, but is that answering my question? It says right here, what speed in miles per hour was he traveling? So he wasn't going 13 miles an hour because that's lower. He was going the posted plus 13. So I'm thinking it's going to be 43. And if you look down there, it is 43. Obviously, my answer is going to be, he was going 13 miles over that posted speed limit, which is $221. So that's how we are also, again, using. Now, there's other ways to use this guessing. Like I said, I have put down there how we can eliminate different things, how we can guess, how we can use a different type of strategic guessing. There's loads of ways that you can use these. So I don't want you to get just said I have to do just traditional math, or I can only use the backwards solving. Okay, there's loads of ways that we can answer these math questions. All right, so let's look at this one. It says, the graph in the standard XY coordinate plane is represented by one of the following equations. Which equation? Now, I have the graph, I have 2 points, and it gives me in that y equals mx plus b formula. So what I can do is look to see where my X and Y intercepts are. Because remember, it gives all my answers here. I know this is my Y intercept. My y-intercept up there is what? 0, 2. So I know that I can't use this one right here. So it's a positive 2, so I'm guessing I can't use h. So I'm going to eliminate it. So then I need to know what my slope is. Remember, slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, so we're understanding that we're going downhill. So I also got to think about, since I'm going down here, I'm going to have a negative slope. All right. So when I look at my choices, I can eliminate choice J because that's a positive slope. I can eliminate choice H because that's not what my y-intercept is. So I'm going to guess about F and G. So I notice that obviously we have that 2 as my y-intercept. That's why I have F and G as my possibles. This is now a 1 and 2 guessing how I'm going to calculate that slope. So I've got x2, y2, x1, y1. So I've got 0 minus 2 over 3 minus 0, negative 2 over 3. So my only possible answer is going to be G. So I used all that guessing, and then I still had to go back with a little bit of the traditional math. So you don't want to discount the traditional math just because you're guessing. You never want to make sure that that's all you do is guess. Sometimes you just don't have the time, but sometimes if you can guess and remember some things, well, this is how we do this, so I can kind of strategically guess this is not the answer, or this could possibly be the answer. So on test day, I want us to know that we can use a variety of different types of strategies. We've got that traditional math. I know I keep going back to that traditional math, but sometimes we just have not learned that concept yet. So we've got lots of techniques that we can add to our toolbox: the traditional math, the picking of the numbers, the back solving, this strategic guessing. So that can all lead us to using our time wisely and getting those right answers. So I want us to make sure that we're using everything that we've learned to put them into our toolbox as we are making these best possible answer choices on this ACT. Anything that we do in our ACT practice, getting ready to lead up to that ACT, we always want to make sure that we are practicing. So continue that practice. I am Ms. Killen, trying to make sure that we all get that great, wonderful grade for the ACT portion math. So as always, have a good day. I'll see you later.